Hello, beautiful souls. This is Atul Krishnadas, one more time with you as your host for today. And we have in here with us the wonderful Chandramukhi. Chandramukhi is going to be here with us, sharing her thoughts on verse 16 from chapter 4 of the Gita. We are right now on transcendental knowledge, and today is going to be a beautiful reflection because in our day-to-day lives many times we are overwhelmed about many decisions in every single aspect in our personal lives, in our work, with our families, with our friends, and sometimes we are faced with what it feels like very difficult choices, decisions, moral dilemmas even. And it is very difficult for some of us to think, am I doing it the right thing? Is it worth it or not? And today we're going to discuss in those cases what will be the best way, according to the Gita, to make decisions. So, thank you for joining us, Chandramukhi.
Thank you, Atul Krishna. It's so wonderful to be here again. And yeah, today we will be discussing, as he said, um, how to make decisions, how to make right choices, and right choices that are best for our own self-interest, our own interest, and for the interest of everyone. And sometimes we do get overwhelmed. We get it's very difficult to see clearly. we we try to find all kinds of different ways, methods to make decisions in certain ways and certain important things in our life. And we're going to discuss, the topic will be, well, do we need guidance or can we just trust ourselves? And that's something that we're going to look at in detail today. So before I start, I would like to first of all offer my obeisances, my respects, my heart at the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Om Vishnupad Shishima Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and all of our illustrious acharyas, our teachers, especially Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Om Vishnupad Shishima Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just saying a few prayers to invoke their mercy and guidance today. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachare Shatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today in our discussions on Bhagavad Gita, we're coming to the chapter 4, verse 16. So we're going to read that and then we'll dive into the great teachings that are given in this next jewel of slokas. All of these beautiful verses are like jewels, and they contain such wisdom that we can apply in our life and guide us towards a higher sense of being, a higher consciousness. So this verse, chapter 4, verse 16. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayo pyatra mohita tate karma pravakshami yajgyatva moksha se shubhat. So the translation is, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. So this is a beautiful verse, and as I've been looking at this verse and getting ready to speak today, I just kind of think of more and more things about it. There's actually so much in here. When I first read it, I thought, oh, that's a very simple verse. But when I really started to contemplate it, I was just really thinking, wow, actually, there's so much in here. So the question that arose and that that I was first contemplating is, well, and as we discussed before, do we rely on our own judgment, or do we need guidance to truly make the right decision of things, to choose right action? So we're going to explore this topic in detail today. And Krishna starting off, there's two sentences, and the first section says, the first part of what he says is, even the intelligent. So that means those who can discriminate about what is good and what is bad, who brightly intelligent, even such persons become bewildered in their efforts to determine what constitutes right action in our life. So this is known as karma in Sanskrit. Action, doing. What are we doing? This is to do with everything we're doing, actually, on a day-to-day basis. But what constitutes right action? Even intelligent people are bewildered. And then bewildered in determining what constitutes right action and what constitutes inaction or karma. So in the purport to this verse, our Srila Prabhupada, who has given commentaries on every verse in this Bhagavad Gita, describes some very important points. And he talks about the importance of seeking guidance. Now, we're going to explore this a little more. So when we're thinking about what actions, what decisions we're going to make, first of all, we're going to look at who is making those decisions. Who am I? Now, this topic was discussed in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's actually foundational to understanding this verse. Understanding who am I, that I am a spirit soul, that I am not this physical body, and that everything relationship with this body isn't mine. So we've developed a story in our life that I am a woman, I am a man. We've identified with the body, and we think that we're rich or we're poor, or we're a doctor or a lawyer or a mum, or whatever situation is. This is a temporary nature that we've developed. But the original nature is different. The original nature is eternal, part and parcel of God. So if we are looking at making our decisions and choosing right action in our life, it depends from what lens we're looking at life. So if we're looking from the platform of, I am a soul, I am an eternal servant of God, I am part and parcel of God, then our decisions will be vastly different to looking at from the conditioned state, where we're meaning, in trying to explain that language, meaning looking at the world from our temporary nature, from the false story that we've developed. It's known as ahankar, or false ego. And so when we're identified with, when we've forgotten who we are, then, and we're acting on the platform of something that's not who we are, then our decisions will be reflected in that way. They'll be on the material platform. They won't be on the soul platform. And so what is our interest in that particular state? So when we're identified with our body and mind as us, we're completely convinced that I am the false, that we're identified with a false ego. So I am a woman, I am a man, and we're identifying with our false identity. Then our interest is related to the body. So it actually is self-interest. It's thinking in the terms of I, me, and mine. And then our whole mood that we approach everything is for me, myself, and I. And that's something that we perceive as natural. It's something that we perceive as normal, but actually is not. That's what the Gita is telling us. It's not normal because we don't die. We're eternal. We're not actually, in our original identity, we're not subject to the, the laws of material nature where we suffer the results of our actions and we enjoy the results of our actions. But because we're in this state, we've forgotten who we really are. Then when we go to make any decision in our life, and when we go to understand spiritual topics, when we go to understand that which is beyond the purview of our senses, we're looking at it through the lens of the self-interest, of selfishness ultimately. And so Krishna's guiding us bring us to a higher state of being, a higher consciousness, helping us to understand, well, how can we realize that we are not this body, and how can we act on the platform of the soul, and then how can our decisions and actions be on the platform of the soul. And then we'll be, rather than being self-interested only, we'll be interested in the broader the broader understanding of reality. We'll be understanding that God is the center, and our relationship and our decisions and actions will be based on our relationship with God, instead of based on separate interest, separate not relation. Because when we're in our natural original state, we're always in connection with God at every moment. He's in our heart. We realize He's in our heart. We realize He is within and without everything. We realize He is our guardian. And then we act with that knowledge. But when that knowledge isn't there, when that realization isn't there, we're acting in a separate interest for me, myself, and I, and not for the broader welfare of others. And so then our decisions and our choices of action are tinged by that. So when we look at this point, do we need guidance or just trust ourselves? Well, do we just trust our own judgment? So being independent or on our own, and in some ways it's a glorified thing in our society, to be on your own, to be able to do it on your own, to be independent, to think for yourself. And actually, when we think about it, we're actually interpersonal beings. We need others. We can't just do things on our own. And on our own, we may be able to judge a certain amount of the things in our life that we need to do, and we want that that freedom, that to be able to make choices and decisions on our own. However, when we're looking at the broader scale of things, we have to see that there is, unless we're perfect, our decisions will not be perfect. If we're in the perfected original state, then our decisions will be perfect, actually. It's actually possible. Now, Krishna's ultimately in this verse, he's discussing the point about, because he's saying in the end, he's saying, now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So he's guiding us to understand, well, what kind of action will lead to liberation from all misfortune. That means liberation from the cycle of birth and death, becoming established in your original state. What actions will you perform to be established in your original spiritual nature? So if we are trying to understand spirit, trying to understand who we really are, trying to understand the spiritual nature behind everything, trying to understand God, on our own it is very difficult. The thing is that we're human beings. There's one saying that says, To err is human. We'd had a tendency to make errors. So we may be the most intelligent person in the world, but the ultimate decision is to do with our spiritual welfare. And if we are identified with matter, with a material body and material mind, then there's imperfections in that. There's going to be imperfections in our understanding of the spiritual truth if we're only relying on our senses. So our senses are very limited. We have actually there's 4 defects of human beings that are noted in the Vedic scriptures. They're noted so that we can understand that more clearly, how being in identifying with a body, with a material body, there is these defects. So there's 4 defects of human beings, and one of them is the tendency to be illusioned. So we can easily be illusioned by a mirage in the desert, for example. But that kind of tendency to be illusioned is in all kinds of different areas of our life. We have the tendency to make mistakes. It's very difficult for any human being to be perfect in everything they do and never make mistakes. So when we're trying to understand spiritual reality, spiritual topics, there's going to be that tendency to be illusioned easily when we hear different topics, and tendency to make mistakes. Another defect is that we have an imperfect mind and imperfect senses. So if we just look at our senses for a moment, we can look, our eyes. Our eyes can only see what's in front of us. We can't see 100 meters away in detail, unless we're actually, there's eagles that can see better than us. They're flying in the sky and they can identify a little mouse that's down there as their food and fly down and get it. We don't have the vision like that. So we can't see what's in the next room. We can only see what's in front of us. So when we try to understand spiritual truth, if we're only relying on our senses, it's going to be faulty. Our ears can only hear above so many decibels and below so many decibels. There's only limited sounds that we can hear. There's certain sounds that dogs can hear that are, there's certain whistles you can get that do this high-pitched sound that we can't hear, but they can hear. And so they can hear sounds that we can't hear. So our sense perception is limited. Our eyes, our ears, our touch, everything. We can't touch things that are too cold or too hot. So our perception of reality around us is limited, and it is. It's like we're only seeing a certain slice of reality. And then we also have the tendency to cheat. So if we get a certain amount of knowledge, then we might want to lord it over others and try and cheat others that we're a great personality. Or there's all these imperfections in human beings. And so when we try to seek out the spiritual truth and the spiritual reality and try to understand the soul and God, if we're on our own, it'll be influenced by these imperfections. There's one example given that I've heard about the blind men and the elephant. So once upon a time, there was 6 blind men, and they were asked to tell what is an elephant. So there was an elephant there, and they needed to tell by their perception what an elephant is. So one of the elephants touched the trunk, and he said, "Oh, an elephant is like a snake." And then another person touched the trunk of the elephant, and he said, "Oh, the elephant's like a spear." Someone else touched the ears of the elephant and said, "Oh, the elephant's like a curtain." The person who touched the body of the elephant compared the elephant to a wall. Another person who touched the trunk of the sorry, not the trunk, the legs of the elephant said, oh, an elephant's like a tree. And then someone who, the last person who touched the tail of the elephant said, oh, an elephant's like a rope. So every one of them had it perceived in a completely different manner. So that's what we're like when we perceive reality around us. We even when you study psychology, they say that we're all, research shows that we perceive reality through our lens. If we're seeing everything with rose-colored glasses, then that's what we see, but somebody else doesn't see if they don't have those rose-colored glasses on. So this, I'm sure we understand this point. So the point is that because of this situation that we're in, because of our forgetting who we really are, because of our imperfections, when we try to understand spiritual reality and make decisions on the soul platform, we do need guidance. And we need guidance of someone who is already situated on that transcendental spiritual platform. So that's why the Bhagavad Gita is reliable, because it is coming directly from Krishna. And the Vedas are known as reliable knowledge because they're not coming from any human being's faulty perception of reality. So Krishna spoke the Vedas, and he's at the beginning of creation, and Lord Brahma, who is the first created being, he passed that knowledge on to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma passed that on to Narada. Narada, his disciple, passed that on to Vyasadeva, and then Vyasadeva passes it on to his disciple. And each of those personalities are all supremely perfected beings. So they're not affected by the faulty perception or tendency to imperfections that there are in human beings. So great sages who've actually become self-realized, so they've realized their original nature. They're not situated in the three modes of material nature anymore. They're not absorbed in goodness, passion, ignorance. They're not absorbed in forgetfulness of who they really are, but actually realized their eternal identity, eternal spiritual identity. And so when they hear from their spiritual teacher and practice yoga, and particularly bhakti yoga, then their original natures arise, or they may be already from birth self-realized. And so that knowledge that they are hearing and they are realizing is absolute truth. It's not subjected to illusion. It's not subjected to the tendency to make mistakes and perceive reality in a faulty way. So I think we're in a spiritual journey. We want reliable knowledge, right? We don't want to be led down the wrong path. We don't want to be led down a path that's only going to be illusory and not really give the truth. And so in this verse, Krishna is alluding to the point that he says even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and inaction. So and anyone who is not self-realized will be bewildered. Those who are self-realized will understand the truth. So he's saying, I shall explain to you what is action, knowing which you will be liberated. So how to act in a way to understand who you truly are, and to be completely free from the cycle of action and reaction, because everything we do in this world has a reaction. Everything from the moment we wake up, every little step of the way, everything we're doing from moment to moment is creating reactions. So we want the reaction of understanding who we truly are and acting on that platform, that I am an eternal servant of God, and how can I act with that consciousness in every single thing I'm doing. So Srila Prabhupada, who is commenting on this verse, he describes the importance of seeking out a spiritual teacher who is self-realized and who is connected to the disciplic line of spiritual teachers. So so Krishna originally spoke this knowledge to Brahma, as we were saying at the beginning of creation, but on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he's saying that whenever this line is broken, I myself, or he sends his representative to re-establish that. So he's re-establishing this knowledge on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But this line is very important. This disciplic succession. So I've heard the example given of, in the old days, there before we had water pumps and you had electricity and everything, they used to have a water tank that was at the top. Actually, and even in India, you can still see these houses where there's the water tanks at the top of the house, and there's a pipeline going from each level of the house down, and at each level can then reach the water. It actually saves electricity too if you pump the water up to the water tank, and then it just comes down through the day. It doesn't have to be pumped. So it can be likened a little bit to like that. It's like a current of water is reaching every house. It's pure, it's untainted. Not every house, every level of the house. It's pure, it's untainted. It's that same water flow, and it's going to the next level, the next level, the next level. So finding a disciplic line that is connected by pure guru and pure disciple, it connects us to the transcendental eternal knowledge given by God himself, by Krishna himself. And so the importance of finding such a guru who is connected to this transcendental knowledge actually brings pure transcendental knowledge that is untainted by anyone's imperfected perception distorting it, from thousands and thousands of years to the present time. And that's pretty amazing. And if it's not in that disciplic line, then actually Krishna has set up he's actually set up 4 sampradayas. And we can go into those particular sampradayas, like lineage, and starting with 4 different perfected personalities that Krishna empowered. And when we're connected to one of those lines, we're connected to a guru in one of those 9 lines, we can be confident that that knowledge is coming to us in a pure state. And if we're accepting a guru that is not connected to that lineage, then it's open to distortion. And so there might be 70% right or 50% right, or but it won't be 100% right unless our guru, one, is self-realized, established in the transcendental state, fully realized in their relationship with God, realized in all the absolute truth conclusions that are described in the Vedas, and is not attached to this world, is completely detached. And so then that flow of transcendental knowledge can come and guide us. Now there's another few points I want to raise here, because sometimes it's very easy to say, well, Krishna's in my heart. Why can't I just rely on Krishna in my heart? And we can. But the beautiful thing is that Guru is that person who is Krishna in the heart manifesting outwards in our physical life. And when we're really seeking out Krishna, when we're really seeking out, hey Krishna, I want to know you. Hey my Lord, you are in my life. I see you guiding me, and I can see we receive guidance. If we're open to it, we can learn to receive the guidance from Krishna within our heart. But then it's also easy to get distracted by our own conditioning and our own tendency to make mistakes. And so when we're really eager and really, really keen to see Krishna, and we only want God, we're realizing that actually this material world is a temporary place. It's not a place where I can really gain my full fulfillment in life. Then the Lord in our heart will see that, He's always there looking for a way actually to bring us home to him. And if he sees that, then he'll come himself as the guru. And so he'll send his near and dear associate from the spiritual world, and that person will be like a transparent medium between us and Krishna. So every word that will come from that spiritual master is not coming from some person who's filled with pride and who doesn't have our interest in mind, but that person has more interest in ourselves than we have in ourselves and will be confirmed in our heart. So like Krishna is in our heart, guiding us at every step, that personality will be confirmed. Everything that personality says will be confirmed in our heart. We'll feel, yes, that person knows me, knows my inner heart, and knows what is for my welfare. And that personality is just like Krishna. So that's this kind of guidance actually is very, very rare. And it will be Krishna coming to us in a physical way as the guru. And just as Krishna himself, God himself, has no personal interest, has no it only is only wanting our welfare at every single step. Krishna has so much love and affection for every one of us. God loves us so much we can't imagine, he cares for us so much more than we care for ourselves. And so when he empowers a guru, a spiritual teacher, to come into our life, that personality will have that same mood, that so much care, so much affection, and knows how to guide us so that we can realize who we truly are. And there's no other motivation in their actions in this world except to engage others in their eternal connect others in their eternal lost relationship with God that we've forgotten. So it's actually a very beautiful thing. And I remember when I first met my spiritual master, I felt so at home. I felt like I'd found something didn't even know I was looking for. It felt so I felt so protected, so loved, and so relieved that everything I'm searching for can be had if I trying to serve Krishna, trying to awaken my relationship with Krishna. And it actually felt like relief from a fire, because like this world is like, it's described actually that it's like a blazing fire of material existence, and we're getting burnt by the miseries here, the different types of disturbances that come. And then I read this beautiful article by one of our teachers, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he described Sri Guru Charana Padma. There's a beautiful song in Bengali known as Sri Guru Charana Padma, describing the nature and sweetness of Sri Guru, or the divine preceptor sent by Krishna. And in this article, he described Sri Guru Charana Padma, the lotus feet of Sri Guru are like the feet of Sri Guru are like a lotus flower. And then he described that a bee is always just searching for honey and trying to find nectar here in this flower, that flower, so that it can make the honey, nectar in this flower, nectar in that flower. And there is a particular flower called the Ketaki flower, and it's very beautiful and very attractive. But on the stem, there are so many thorns. And so he described that the bee who goes to that Ketaki flower gets is so attracted, but then the thorns of the flower actually start tearing at its wings, and it feels so disturbed. It's trying to get nectar, but the thorns, they're just coming and they're tearing its wings. And then in so much pain, the bee is searching and searching, where can I get relief? And so they're coming to the lotus flower, which is emanating such a beautiful fragrance. The bee comes to the soft petals of the lotus flower and feels so much relief. Its wings start to get healed. The nectar that comes from the center of the lotus flower fills it with so much relief, so much, and it feels like medicine. It's known as Padma Madhu, or the sweetness coming from a lotus. And it feels, the bee just gets relief from its sufferings. The wings start to heal. And so he was saying that the lotus feet of Sri Guru are just like that. And when I read that, I thought, yes, that's just what I've experienced with my own guru. And it's something I couldn't describe. It's something I'd never even experienced before. And it's something, such a great blessing to have in one's life. And it actually feels like that person, he knows me, and everything he's saying, yes, guiding in this certain way and that certain way, and it just resonates with my heart, makes my heart feel enlivened and happy, and there's nothing else like it. So when our Srila Prabhupada in this purport is describing that, yes, we do need guidance. We need guidance from above, not from any ordinary person who's just going to teach us how we can act in this world and get more material happiness that's going to be lost, but someone who can actually guide us for action and decisions that will enable us to become free from this cycle of birth and death, become established in perfected consciousness of love and affection. And that is such a hopeful, beautiful thing. Now, I'm not in this class, I'm not going into what that is, because Krishna's about to go and explain that. He's in this verse, he's saying, I will describe to you how to act in this world, so that the effects of this material existence will be diminished, and you will realize who you really are. So I'll finish there, and if anyone has any questions, please ask, or any comments to share. I'd love to hear them. Just checking to see if there's any questions here. Otherwise, can you see it? Here we go. There's a question. Okay, so what would you recommend? Oh, hang on a sec. My screen's just gone. There we go. Okay, what would you recommend for those who do not live nearby other devotees, or perhaps a daily habit you have to remind us who we are when in those situations or at the beginning of the day? Okay, so that's a really, really good question. I always come back to prayer. It's always, cultivating the presence of the Lord with our own intelligence, and then praying. And there's actually so many processes that are given, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives these too, and he says, absorb your mind and heart in me, become my devotee, and offer everything to me. Whatever you do, whatever you offer or give, whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you offer or give away, do as an offering for me. But sometimes we feel like we're on our own. We feel like we're not around. We may be around not others who are also seeking the same destination that we are, the same path, and it can be challenging. Lucky we have the internet these days. Here we are on the internet sharing these things for everyone, whether you're in a association of devotees or association with other like-minded persons or not. So that's one way we can connect. Also, the books that are written by great teachers like our Srila Prabhupada, like my Srila Gurudev, like transcendental books, they are very powerful. Those words, we can actually, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we read the Bhagavad Gita, we can actually feel like we're going to be in the sitting with those authors, because those authors are, they're not of this world. They're with Krishna eternally. And so they're present there in their words. And so if we pray when we approach, so actually there's several things that we can do daily. They're like a medicine or like a diet, you could say, that help us along this journey, so that throughout our life we can make the right decisions. And if we can take this diet and this medicine at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, and any time during the day would be great as well, then we can feel like we're on the path, and we're making decisions that are in alignment with God. And so one of those is chanting God's names first thing in the morning, offering prayers, offering ourselves through that chanting and through those prayers. And then we do that throughout the day, and especially at nighttime, that kind of is like a morning and evening sandwich where you have the day in between, and then you have the spiritual practices in the morning and evening. The other thing is there's three actually. There's many. They're called limbs of bhakti, or limbs, actions that you can do to that are part of this daily diet. One of them is Shravanam. There's three of the main ones: the Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam. So Shravanam is hearing or reading, hearing about the transcendental reality, hearing about Krishna and his transcendental pastimes, activities, his instructions, and then chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, repeating those, cultivating that knowledge, and also chanting his names. And then the third one is remembering. So then what we've heard, what we've read or heard, what we've spoken to others, and then what we're meditating on, what we're chanting and cultivating in our consciousness, then we'll remember and be absorbed in. So that's just a little, for 2 minutes. Obviously, we could go into so much detail of that, but they're just a few little things that we can couch our day in to enable us to have a spiritual diet going in to help us. Okay, so I'm not sure if Atul Krishna Prabhu was here. I'm sorry we were late today. We actually had some technical difficulties, and we had to start late. And it looks like my host might not be there still, so we might just have to finish